My name is Jamar Buchanan, and this is the Highest Investment Podcast. Luke Zhao is often credited with the quote, "Mastering others is strength, mastering yourself is true power. Knowing others is intelligence, knowing yourself is true wisdom." And if you couldn't tell by the quote that I led in with, this is about to be one of the most woo-woo episodes of the season. But I think it can also be really one of the most applicable and relatable episodes for everyone that is able and willing to take in the information. And I will do my level best not to hop all on my soapbox, even with all the woo-woo that's in it. I want to talk about, in this episode, how I grow and share with you all just some of my own personal growth journey, what that looks like, and what the benefits are of it. So let me just start with the obvious expression and clarification. What do I mean by personal growth and growth? So simply put, it's taking a look at yourself and intentionally improving you in any way that makes your life better. That's how I look at it. It is self-assessment. How am I? Who am I? What am I now? And what can I do that would make my life better? Simply put. The form that you do that in takes it can come in many ways. But, I think it could come from anything from the spiritual to the professional. I think that it could even include your sex life. And I am not just talking about having more sex, although having more sex by definition would be growth. So, it could include that too. I don't think it's not one or the other on that. I'm not saying it's not necessarily just more sex, which I'm for. So I look at it like this. If you've ever been on a team and had a coach, or if you've ever been on a job where they pay for you to get training in some way, it's like that, but for your benefit and your life, right? And in those cases, right, the growth, the idea of growth might not sound like the sexiest thing, except for that part about sex that I just mentioned. That would clearly be sexy because it's literally sex. But, I think there are a bunch of forms that your growth and focusing on it comes in, right? And I personally, I'm kind of an all of the above kind of guy. Like, I don't do or look at just one thing, right? I take in books and audiobooks to learn from. One of the ones I profess, and you would think I'm a sponsor, I'm not, but it's The Way of the Spirit, man. It's one of the things that I've recommended to damn near all my friends, a bunch of people in general, because I think it has very relevant messages and for men within it. And it's things like that I think really can excite and inspire growth in people. But I think, it's not just in the form of books and audiobooks. It's going on certain retreats that, you could have meditation retreats that I've been on when I got into meditation. And your growth can even come in the form of like just the daily conversations you have. Like, what is the nature of what you talk about with the people that you have in your life? And is there something that adds and contributes to you? Does it take away from you and bring you down? Or does it just keep you pretty much at the status quo? And I'm not saying it all needs to be in that first camp, but that's a place in which it can come if you've got the right people and relationships around you. And that is one of the things that I think is vitally important, is just making, more people have ready access to, meaningful interactions with people, building a community of people who are on a path and can help and support each other. And that's one of the biggest goals and aims for Highest Investment, is to set that up for Black men. But that can happen in your day-to-day conversations with the people in your life, if you've got those people in your life. And that's where your growth, that's one of the ways in which your growth can come, if you have those real ass important conversations for self and for your friends. And on a side note, I would just say, like, it's vitally important to have a real nice circle of people around you. Like, maybe it isn't your circle that I'm talking about, isn't your full group of friends, and you've got friends and relationships for different reasons from different times and periods in your life that will, in your life that will always be there. But having a circle that is focused by design on being built with and comprised of people that make you better and that you make better, that's a real important thing to have, and be able to find that. I have not always had that. I believe strongly in that now, and I work to try and cultivate and develop relationships and place people within that circle for me, and be that as needed to other people. Because when you are in need of life lessons and experiences, that you necessarily don't want to have to walk on your own, that can be one of the best places you can get that at the ready. So I think that's just key, outside of just having daily conversations. So, but back to what I was saying, for me, what my growth path has looked like I said, I'm kind of all the above. I've done a lot. I think for me, I did this thing at one point years ago called Landmark, Landmark is this, personal development seminar. It's kind of like a 3-day thing, and have different versions of it after that seeks to basically, their goal is to improve the quality of life of people that attend the forum. Again, not sponsored, but I highly recommend Landmark. It was transformational for me. It's very, very good in terms of like a baseline of just like really helping me reformat my own sort of perspective of self and how I was looking at and living my life, the relationships that I had in it with my family, my wife, with my friends, with classmates, even with coworkers, it helped me in all relationships that I had, sort of reframe that. I think things like that, and not just Landmark, I think there are other things outside of Landmark that serve similar purposes, but I think that was great. That was one of the big things that constituted the start of my growth journey. I began meditating, like I said before, which is something I'd never done before. I wasn't really into it, but I highly, one more time, highly recommend meditation. I won't get into all of it, but it brings clarity. It brings in visions. It gives you thought outside of the input that constantly inundates you, that may not be your own. It is a powerful tool that you literally don't need anything to do. It's in many forms, you're trying not to, right? And so meditation is great. I've gone on meditation retreats, which are they're just, I think highly of them. I think they're dope. I think they're amazing. You don't have to do all of that, but I think they give what you get, or what you're willing to put into it. Again, I like I said, I read a bunch of books. Big fan of, like I said, The West Superior Man. I read a bunch of other books by a bunch of other authors. Some of my favorite authors are Frederick Dodson. I'm also a big fan of Bell Hooks and Ta-Nehisi Coates. And I think the perspectives and narratives I've gained in reading those books have been just huge for me. And then, I really just started to do what I would call is like just sort of objectively seeing myself. And what I mean by that objective is like from an outside or neutral place, right? Like you live your life through your perspective, right? Like I literally see things one way, like this way from this nose and here. And I'm always sort of in the moment with me until I like stop and start to look at me like, this person here did this for why, or this person here feels how, whatever, right? And I started to really sort of like start to look at myself and take an assessment of myself. And I started journaling to like really capture those thoughts and like the things I would learn and note about myself. Like, oh, this really pisses me off, or I really get, a response to these sorts of things, or I have like frustration arises when my expectations aren't met. That's literally like one of them, right? And I started to really just start to take the time to objectively see myself, because then you start to kind of catch your shit, right? Like no one's perfect, and we all say that, but if you're not perfect, when do you take the time to see in what ways you are not perfect, and like don't just be like, yeah, I'm cool with that. But you don't necessarily have to. But that was for me a big part of growth, because I full disclosure, and I think my family members will co-sign the fuck out of this, was at some point I became a real asshole to be around in life, and that I realized that had happened, and that was not the person that I wanted to be to people. I definitely wasn't born with that energy. I definitely wasn't raised with that energy. At some point, I carried this energy with me that didn't make it a pleasant experience to share my company for a lot of people. And you gotta hear that and take that in, or you gotta see yourself when shit like that happens, and you start to sort of drift away from who you really want to be. And for me, seeing myself objectively in life, just huge and really just changing that format for me. So those are the things that I've done and do to this day. Some more diligently than others. Like I'm really getting back on my meditation practice. I do yoga now too, by the way. That's neither here nor there. But I think those are some good baseline things, and there's a myriad of other things that you can do that may speak more to what it is that you want out of life and out of your experience. But one of the things that I had to reconcile with taking the time to be a better person, growth is actually spending money and investing in my growth. And I was real hesitant to do that on a lot of things. Like, I would get an audiobook and I was like, well, I already got so many audiobooks. I want to buy another. And it's like $5. You're never really going to miss that $5. Or, it'd be like the notion of sign up for this retreat. It's like, oh, damn, how many thousands of dollars is this? Go there. And it's like, damn, what does that include? And it's just like, but like, how many vacations have you been on that you've completely forgotten about after you left them? And you spent thousands of dollars to do that. And it's just like the willingness for me, my family would probably also agree with this. Like, I'm a bit thrifty, right? I was a Boy Scout growing up, and one of the things that they tell you is a scout is thrifty. I took that to an extreme, and I got a little cheap with my thrifty. And so I wasn't always willing to invest and spend money on myself. And you really are worth it, bro. Like, what's your money for, right? Like, how much of your money flows out and it lands ultimately and blesses someone else in a way greater than you, right? Like, clothes are cool. I like to look nice. Experiences are cool. I like to have them. But like, aren't you worth some of that coming in and like making you better? And be willing to like spend and invest in you. Like, I'm cheerleading for that. I'm gonna stay on that a little longer because it was something I needed to get over. And I was just real miserly towards Jamar because I can always tell me I'm okay not doing that and I don't have any repercussions. I'm like, yeah, I get to keep my money. Yeah, no, and just get over it. Like, you may look back in 5 years like, I wasted $1,000 on that thing, that course, that seminar, those books, that learning, that therapist. Or you might look back and be like, wow, that was a turning point for me. After that, I never saw, looked, felt about things the same again. And when you think about people who live lives that are happiest, who live lives where they're doing with more of their time the things that they actually want to do and not the stuff that's like, well, I got to get by. And everybody has a level of that. But like, the people who you might say are the ones who got it, and it's okay to see that and be like, that's where I want to go and that's what I want to be. Try and figure out how many of them are actually people who spend money and time and resources to make themselves better in some way. And people who are miserable, people who look around and their lot in life isn't what they want it to be, or they can't get past here for there. How many of them actually are investing in themselves? And I'm not saying it's a one for one, and I'm not saying anyone who spends anything or invests themselves is going to have a great life. No, you still may get divorced. You still may be called ugly. You still may be, not to knock anybody's weight, fat, whatever it is. But what if it changes on that, right? Why would you forego that opportunity for that upside just to keep a couple extra bucks that you're not going to miss at the end of the day? So I really had to get over that. And that was hard. And eventually I became more, and I'm not perfect. I still look at stuff like, oh, and, but I'm at least able to see that. I am objectively able to assess that there's this, scarcity around money and sensitivity to it because, hey, I don't want to be broke again. And hey, I've only got so much now. What if no more comes in and I've spent this on this or I've invested it on that and it doesn't come back to me? Well, sometimes that's what happens in life. Like, every investment doesn't have to pay off. So I'll get off my soapbox. I told you I'm going to get on my soapbox. Damn sure lied. Next point. So when I talk about this, I'm really just saying, those are the ways in which I grow. Those are the ways in which my life is made better. I feel the day-to-day existence that I have now in life is much more richer, much fuller. I enjoy what I'm doing more. I am happier. I am a much more pleasant person for the people around me to experience. Uh, I get random compliments on my nature, whereas before I used to have to like people would have to experience me over longer periods of time to be like, oh, you're this way. I perceived you as that, and a lot of that was just who I was and how I was coming off to people, and I grew out of that, with time, with intentionality around that, and been, with growth as a man and as a human being. And so, take the time to invest in yourself because you're worth it. And I mean invest in yourself like companies and coaches invest in you to make you a better employee or player so that they get something out of it. Except I want you to be the one who gets something out of it. And if Luke Zal's quote is right, and mastering yourself is true power, and knowing yourself is true wisdom, what is the opposite of those things? What does it mean if you don't know yourself and if you're not a master of yourself? So thank you. This is the Highest Investment Podcast. I really would appreciate it if you would share this with someone for whom this message resonates, especially if that is a Black man. Appreciate you. Please follow, like, subscribe, and share with someone who could benefit from it. Take care. Peace.